This story starts out when my dad was 6 years old. He was at his grandma's house, who was my great grandma, and she's still alive today and 85 years old. And this was in her house at Florida. And he was in the garage playing with matches. And she caught him playing with matches and called her friend, who was a firefighter. And they brought him to the firehouse, and they had a jail cell there, and they showed him what happens to people who play with fire and arsonists, and they put him in the jail cell and told him there's no cartoons in prison, which is, I thought was really funny as a kid. And then that was his story, and he from then on was really adamant about, us, me and my other siblings, not playing with fire as kids. And that worked for not really well at all, actually. And so my story took place when I was around 6 or 7. I'm not entirely sure what age I was, but it was somewhere around then. And Saul's everyone's had a bit of a curiosity with fire when they were kids, and you mess around with the fire and play around with it for a bit, and then you get yelled at by your parents for doing so. And then for me, I ignored these warnings, and then I ended up paying by hurting myself with fire. And then this whole fire thing really became an interest of mine when I was a kid and joined the Boy Scouts. And they teach you how to start a fire with a flint and steel, and how to care for a fire and build it up, and all that lovely stuff. And they teach you all these skills, and I took these skills and I used them wrongly by messing around with fire and setting sticks on fire and running around and melting stuff. And I would melt those like green army men that you'd get as kids, and I'd melt them into a little puddle, and then deform them. And it was normal kid stuff. And I ended up getting caught a couple times, and I'd get in trouble and get yelled at, and then I'd ignore it, and then I'd do it again, and then I get yelled at, and he'd tell me the story of him from earlier. And this went on a lot, and then I'd always ignore it. And then one time I had a stick that was like on fire in one end, and I grabbed it by the wrong end, which is the fiery end, ended up burning myself. And I have a scar right there. You probably can't see it, but it's right there in between my thumb and index finger. And I ended up getting burnt real bad and had a real big blister there. And I ran to my dad, and then he was like, "I told you, shouldn't have played with fire." And then I was like, "I'm sorry for not listening to you," and all that. And then from then on, I took a similar stance to him, the whole playing with fire thing, and really stopped that whole thing. And really, like, I think a saying that the saying "you're playing with fire" is really a great saying because of this. Because like, you shouldn't, fire is an obviously really dangerous thing, and like shouldn't be meddled with. And it's a very good saying for when you're playing with something dangerous, because it doesn't seem dangerous, but it can be really dangerous. And you can burn down a whole forest, like has happened several times. And that it's just, you got to be real careful with it and respect it. And a lot of times that doesn't happen, and then getting hurt, or you're just playing around and you get burnt, or you end up burning something down. And really got to respect it. And the lesson that should be taken away from this is, obviously, don't mess around with fire, respect it, and really be careful around it. And listen to your parents, because they know what they're talking about when they are talking about these kind of things, and even though you just like shrug it off when they tell you these stories, you really got to listen to them because they've experienced it all, and they've been through the whole thing before, and they really know what they're talking about, and you should listen to them when they tell you not to do something like play with fire. And anyway, that's all for my story on when I played with fire and got hurt. And thank you for listening. Bye.